Hey guys, Cohesive Friendship Unit here. I'm Chris, and I'm joined by Jeremy.
What's good?
And Brian.
What's going on?
And something kind of fun happened today. No Man's Sky teased a new update coming up.
No Man's Sky, the definition of kind of fun.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to be talking about that tonight. But first, real quick, comments are appreciated. Let us know what you think about this update. Likes are appreciated, and we're actually doing a giveaway for Far Cry 5. All you have to do is sub to the channel. At 200 subs, we'll give a copy away. I really like the soundtrack for that. You should also listen to that. But
I'm sick of the ads, dude.
the soundtrack's really good. We're moving on. We're moving on. No Man's Sky. So today, No Man's Sky, in typical fashion, went from borderline radio silence to dropping some like massive stuff on us. Not even massive. It was a very quick tease. It was a tweet with a teaser that basically just spelled the word next. And they also unveiled that No Man's Sky will be coming to the Xbox One. Which, that kind of makes sense, I guess. And there was a post from the No Man's Sky website that was also super vague, where they talk about their last update and how big it was, and then they talk about, quote, "We called our upcoming update Next because it's an important next step on a longer journey for us and the community. It will be our biggest update so far, and something we've been working ridiculously hard on. This will be free to existing players, and will continue to support No Man's Sky in this way for the foreseeable future." So that was kind of the big news. The other reasonable news is No Man's Sky is going to be 4K HDR on the Xbox One X. And presumably
Because
some
it
version of it.
needs to be 4K? Like,
Well,
I
no,
don't understand the rationale.
getting Xbox One support is not guaranteed on games. So it's nice that it is guaranteed.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's better than not having Xbox One X support.
Yeah.
So, anyways, No Man's Sky. I'm going to share my experience with No Man's
Go
Sky.
for it.
Because I'm actually, of the three of us, the only one who's played it.
Accurate.
So, No Man's Sky, they showed that trailer, and I was, like, blown away by it. The original trailer, I loved it, and typical Hello Games, radio silence. It shows up at E3. They show another amazing, unrealistic trailer that could never possibly happen, but I bought it. And I watched all the interviews, and he lied in front of us every time. I remember watching, I think it was the Kimmel Show. It was one of those like late night shows where, you know, he explicitly said, yeah, there's multiplayer. You're going to like be in this universe with 18 quintillion planets and bump into players, and it's going to be insanely fun. He like said this on, you know, national television. And, you know, the game launches, and it's totally single player. There's no online connectivity. It like... That's the beginning of the missed opportunities and lies that came with this game. So I actually had a podcast that I listened to, and I eagerly anticipated it for weeks. Like, it was supposed to launch at 4 p.m. on a Thursday, and every Thursday I would be ready for that podcast. And if it was like 10 minutes late, I'd be mad. It was like my favorite part of the workday of that week was listening to this podcast about No Man's Sky, which hadn't even come out yet. Came out, everyone was disappointed. That game really hurt a lot of people and broke a lot of promises. I paid $60 for that game.
I'm sorry.
This got really deep.
It's
like a confessional.
This is one of the, and I played it for 25 hours, so I had fun with it. I was not one of those people who refunded it on Steam with like 80 hours of playtime. I do think from like an hour of playtime, I, you know, debatably got my $60 worth, but it was just full of like absolute lies from a marketing standpoint. And there were investigations from governments and stuff about whether or not it was false advertising. So that's my story with No Man's Sky. That being said, there have been a lot of updates that have improved this game. And I have not rebooted the game, despite looking at all these updates and seeing how promising they are. What do you guys think about No Man's Sky?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen some gameplay of it, and it seems like the type of game that I would get bored of really, really fast. Like, it's the kind of game that you would want if you're kind of just trying to bilk people, right? It sucks you in for the first, like...
4 hours.
Yeah, it sucks you in for a while, and then you've bought it, and there's nothing that you can really do about it at that point. I think it's interesting. I mean...
It's a
Saying-
concept that is pitched and can never be achieved.
You know what? It kind of realistically, it sounds kind of similar to the fucking pirate game that just came out,
Sea of Thieves.
Sea of Thieves.
Yeah.
Like a big empty place that you're supposed to do something fun, but nothing.
But this is an even bigger, even more
It's
empty.
even bigger,
Right, like
and
it's-
with even less in it.
It's not impressive.
It's revolutionary.
It's-
Fewer features.
It's not impressive to say that you can procedurally generate like however many planets they generate. Like they're procedurally generated. Like
Yeah.
it,
Jeremy, I remember maybe a year back or so. The game's actually been out for a year and a half now. You mentioned that you maybe wanted to check it out.
Did I?
Yes.
I was drunk.
Okay. That has changed. You do not have interest in this game in general. Were either of you kind of...
I was
No,
kind
I
of
think I was
interested in it
shitting
because
on
it's
it.
like spacey, but
I remember you being excited, and you were like, "There's all the planets," and I was like,
but
"Bam, they're gonna be like stupid, and there's not gonna be anything there." And you were like, "No, it's gonna be great." And
Yeah.
I was,
Yeah. Okay. So, real quick, the last update actually had the beginnings
13
of...
quintillion more
No,
planets.
it had the beginnings of multiplayer. They were little orbs. They weren't avatars or anything, and you couldn't really like your planet space didn't necessarily change. But up to 16 people could be in the same universe as you, and they would come in based on proximity and stuff. So
Right.
they had the beginnings of something good. Do you think that this game can come back?
No.
yes, but it's gonna take a lot. Like they have a really bad rap, and it's not like a lot of people have said that in addition to not living up to the promises that they made, that the gameplay really
Isn't that interesting?
It's interesting for a while, but then it rapidly loses.
I think
And
the
they worked on
consensus
that.
on it years out is that it is an all right game that really over delivered or really over promised on what it was going to deliver. It's like has some. It's a pretty good indie game with some interesting elements. I think that's the consensus. I think that will continue to be the consensus. When you say can it come back, I don't think people mostly hate it. I think there's frustration, but I think that a lot of people think it's like pretty okay. But I like if you're saying can it come back, as in like is it going to be big again? Is it or like
is it
going to
have a lot of concurrent players on Steam?
No.
Okay. So
and that isn't even necessarily the game. It came out what? How many years ago?
it came out a year and a half.
yeah,
Really, just a
it's
year and a
not
half
that
ago?
old. It's not that old.
2016.
Jesus Christ, really?
Yeah.
Fuck
August.
me. Well, but even so, like something that came out a year and a half ago, and suppose it gets the update in what, another half a year? Couple
No,
months?
this summer. So up
So
to
half a year.
Up to a half a year.
So something that came out about 2 years ago, no game that came out 2 years ago is going to get like a bizarrely high raise in the player base.
Except Rainbow Six Siege, which did just that. It came out, it was received mediocrely, and it had a huge comeback, and now it's one of the bigger esports out there.
Well, maybe I'm wrong.
So, okay, I have a little bit of faith. I don't think it's going to come back to its former glory.
No.
But I think it's fostered a community already. They've had some, like, real-world games occur, like, where they mail fan stuff, and the subreddit's very popular. I think it has a chance to persist. But I don't think it's going to come back. So, in this update, super vague, so anything's on the table. From what you guys have seen of No Man's Sky, what's, like, the one thing that they could do that could make this game okay?
Well, you can't can you really build your ship? You're kind of just
Not
stuck
really.
with what you get.
No, you
right?
can find ships and upgrade them and change ships.
But it's like limited.
Yeah, I think
They're
that
procedurally generated ships. Like,
right, but you could still go a lot farther with that. I think that you would appeal to more of
they have base building now.
Ostensibly,
Yeah,
there's combat, right?
Yeah, there's combat. You, like, shoot stuff.
I mean, I think you could appeal a little bit more to the people who are, trying to build like satellites and stuff like that. The kind of more of the sciencey crowd. But I guess just more interactivity with it. Because it seems like it's one of those things that's interactive, but it's not really, because the interactivity has been limited with like from out of the box by the game designer by kind of making everything more or less the same.
Yeah, I agree. I think that interactivity in terms of more opportunity, and I don't know what this would require of them technically in terms of their procedurally generated worlds, but yeah, more opportunities to find
just,
more types of elements, craft different things, more things for ships, just add more stuff to the world, so at least there's a fun element of discovery.
It's not impressive that it's big, you know. Like if you have a code that generates planets, it's not hard to just keep copying that over and over and over and over again. What makes it good is when you look at all of those different things and they are actually different. Yeah, like there's a similarity, but there's enough time has been put into, I guess, the complexities of how the procedural generation works that you can kind of have some differentiation between what's going on in the games.
And then the second thing would be like full multiplayer, because then there would be at least the kind of context for like, why do I give a fuck about building a ship? Why do I give a fuck about doing anything? Like, have some multiplayer, have some combat, be able to like raid cool shit off of people that you kill. And like harvest that and give like.
But is that really like that's if you want to do that
Sky.
Like you could just play Eve or something like that. Like that already exists. You know what I'm saying? Like the multiplayer combat thing is already.
I don't think that should be the focus, but I think that incorporating some of that would be I think it would be another way of fleshing out the world. So like imagine that you're doing your thing, you're going planet to planet, you're exploring. Let's suppose that they have included a few more, new types of scenery, new types of elements, new things to craft. You're doing your thing. You're like, this is kind of interesting. And then out of nowhere, someone else shows up and starts trying to fuck up your shit. It's just another way that makes the world feel actually kind of alive.
Right, but
because right now the only thing in it that's not you in terms of like CPUs are like weird half donkey, half zebra, half clam.
There's 3 races in the game. Well. Yeah,
but like there's in terms of other characters, other animals, there's very little.
Well, I mean, I think it's and
they don't behave very intelligently.
I think that this is the kind of space game that lends itself more towards being a first, like a single person space game. I don't think that I don't think that it really works that well with the combat model.
So Sean said, Sean Murray, the lead developer and the guy who should not have been doing all these interviews, he is kind of the brainchild of the game, and when he was originally pitching multiplayer, he said, the chances of you finding another player are extremely rare. Like, most people will never find another player. The universe is too big. Even with, like, max player counts, like, you might ever bump...
But that would actually make it kind of cool, because it would be a real event. Like, if you were like, oh my god, there's someone else in space.
So, oh my god, there's someone else playing No Man's Sky.
And then you slit their throat and you take their fucking elements.
So I have a thought on multiplayer that I'll let Brian go, and then I'll share that thought. But Sean Murray said that, and then on launch day, 2 players made it a point to get to the same point, because you start at a random point in the universe. They made a point to get to the same spot, and nobody was there.
R.I.P.
I don't know,
if
you want to have like a sparse multiplayer, you could also just make the universe smaller.
Yeah.
So that you meet people. It's rare, but most people meet
occasionally.
You occasionally meet some. I think that
would be cool.
I think that you can have a lot of replay value in just letting people mess around with stuff. Kerbal Space Program. Minecraft and Kerbal Space Program. There's no point to either of those games.
And they work.
Yeah. So, because they're open-ended, they're unlimited.
But the tools within that sandbox are extensive enough for you to
entertain
yourself, which in No Man's Sky is not the point. So for multiplayer, this is a quick idea for multiplayer. These things called portals, in the E3 trailer they showed you going through a portal and you went to another world and it was super cool or whatever. When the game launched, the portals didn't do anything. They were in the world, but literally nothing happened. A subreddit was actually made called No Man's Sky Portals, dedicated to figuring out what the fuck these do. It turned out nothing. So, I don't know, this would be kind of an interesting idea. Portals are also pretty rare. They're very rare, actually. I think I found 2 in my 25 hours of playing. If you find a portal, it will, bring you to someone's planet. A planet that somebody is on, and it will bring you to the nearest person that it can. So if you find a portal and you're like, hey, I want to find somebody, you can enter the portal and go to them. You could choose to ignore it. That's
Love it.
But what if you find a Portal 2?
The Squeakquel?
Then do you get to play a co-op game with them when you find them?
So my like biggest want for the game is and this he did a decent. I mean, it was not a great job. The other thing you have to remember is 13 people developed this game, and everybody
It kind of looks like it.
Yeah, exactly.
It
But
doesn't make it good.
I think if they could revamp anything, it would be like a kind of dynamic quest system. So the best part, I think everyone agrees of No Man's Sky is kind of like the intro where your ship is crashed or whatever, and you have to rebuild your ship or whatever, and that allows you to take off. And another highlight is when you find one of the characters that pushes the story, because it's like, oh wow, I found this person in this universe. I think they could script in more dynamic events like that, where if I like choose to go to a planet, there is a chance that my ship breaks down. And if my ship breaks down, then I have to fix it. Like, I'm not just mindlessly going from planet to planet with no point. Like, I'm going to a planet for one of several scenarios to occur.
Yeah.
Where, like, your ship crashes and it's a hostile air environment, so you have to manage your oxygen while getting the resources you need for your ship. Or they could spin these, like, dynamic scenarios where if you land on a planet, there's, like, maybe a 30%, 20% chance that something engages you, gives you an objective. It wouldn't have to be like a story scripted thing. It could be a combination of variables that push out a scenario for you.
Well, and that kind of, I think that adds a lot of that sort of gameplay for the sake of gameplay because whenever you're up against, like, I have a limited amount of resources to do this task and I have to complete it, like, the game really hasn't changed that much, but it's a little bit different every
It gives you something to do,
right.
At least.
Yeah.
But yeah, that because at a point, so the goal is to get to the center of this of the universe, and
I heard there were black holes there, dude.
There are black holes, yeah. And at a point, once you get past the intro few hours, it just becomes like, I need to jump an insanely large amount of light years to get there. Like, I need to land on this planet, get enough fuel to jump to another system, land on that planet, get enough fuel to jump, and it's just like literally like a 15-hour jumping fest and like randomly roaming. And if they could inject some of that special sauce that made the beginning kind of fun, I think it would be worth it.
I'm not sure that exact same scenario would be fun on repetition. Like,
great,
that was
my
an
ship
example.
Is broken
again.
But like, if you land on a planet and
there's actually something,
and somebody there's one of the characters, because we know that they can put characters on these planets. You land, a character like holds you up and says like, I need this amount of money or something, or you need to go kill these ships. Or they won't let you through.
Or like a unique environment. Like one in every 100 planets has like this one unique environment, and then once you have reached that planet, like it's know, taken out of the fucking algorithm.
But basically give you a reason to...
And that's similar to what Brian and I were saying. Just add more into the game that gives you things to do, environments to see, just give you a purpose for playing.
Yeah.
Or on a completely different note, they could just go the Rick and Morty model and make the planets like completely ridiculous. Like, you have
a couple of completely ridiculous
like
planets
some that are just
be a bad
like
idea.
butts or something.
That could be amusing. I mean, technically,
some of them are completely. But I want to real quick address one of the rumors, which is that No Man's Sky will be getting VR support. Right. I think that would actually be kind of fun.
It would add a different element to it.
It would give some. It's like it's like Skyrim VR. Like, I don't necessarily want to play through Skyrim in VR, but it would be cool to literally walk around in Skyrim in VR.
Sure.
And if I already own the game and they patch in VR support, I will not be upset.
Most of the VR, and not most of, but a lot of the stuff on VR still is stuff that you would never play if it was just like a controller and...
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like a demo. You're walking around and experiencing
like
the environment.
Sim like No Man's Sky would actually...
is fairly
because you're in a different environment instead of looking at it.
Such a diversity going for it of environments.
It's supposed to.
It would be fun to look at. It would be fun.
I think that's what the update probably is.
It might even work better. Because
It
if
honestly
you're that immersed in something, like you're gonna notice the subtle differences and stuff like. And I'm sure like the devs are like, oh yeah, every planet's completely different. I can tell you that, but they've been looking at it. They built it.
They made bots that would play the game and create GIFs of the planets so they could like mass review planets for QA testing. So they say. They've said a lot of things.
So they say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, any kind of closing thoughts on this next update?
Enjoy No Man's Sky VR.
Enjoy No Man's Sky VR. Glorious.
Which will feature none of the things that we suggested to correct it.
They'll probably like increase your jetpack fuel or
and loot boxes.
and loot boxes.
Loot boxes. Loot boxes in VR.
Milk them for all
You
their
heard
worth.
it here first.
Brian, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to offer a friendly reminder to you guys out there to crush that motherfucking like button. And make sure you subscribe to our channel. Like Chris said, we are giving away a copy of Far Cry 5 for the 200th sub.
No.
And
No,
not the 200th sub.
At 200,
At 200, at 200, at 200, we are giving away there is a copy of Far Cry 5. Someone's gonna get it at some point.
If
around
we hit 200 subs, someone's getting it.
when we hit 200 subs.
When we hit 200 subs, someone's getting a copy of Far Cry 5.
Yes.
And
you're
it's
gonna
not going to
love
be one of us. It's going to be one of you guys. So
The soundtrack is incredible.
make sure you also click that little ringy dingy up in the top right corner of your screen so you get updated on all the latest stuff that we're doing here at the Cohesive Friendship Unit headquarters. That's all I got.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys. Let us know what you think about this next update, and we will catch you guys in the next one.